That has got to change. And we too, as black people, we come to the negotiating table feeling inferior, automatically beaten down. That too has got to change. We are running parallel to each other. If we are going to be married, there is no conversation running parallel. My Caucasian brothers and sisters, please get off your high horse, come down. And we need to realize we're just as good as anybody else. Let's rise up. And somewhere in the middle is the way we meet. And it is in the middle that we are going to have serious, meaningful conversation that's going to make this marriage be what this marriage is supposed to be. I'm on a mission. And I have no doubt in my mind that together, looking at our Africa with clear vision, understanding the purpose, realizing that we have vacated a very important place that belongs to Africa, and agreeing that we must take Africa to that place and let Africa occupy her place. It is then, and only then, can we demand our respect as black people.
Now, thank you for watching. As you know, this is Afro Revolt, and we always try to enlighten you on issues that arise across the globe. Now, Arikana, or rather Dr. Arikana Chihombori is someone who is, although she is a woman, but she always agitates for a free Africa and always says it as it should be, because she feels that Africa is still being colonized. In this video, she is trying to enlighten the people, or rather the blacks, that these whites and the Western countries are still coming for you, and this time round the fight will be on the soil, directly affecting you. This is because they need all the resources, and their scramble is so much selfish that they even fight themselves one on one. So they would extend that fight on our soil, and those who will suffer are the Africans. Now, I want us to watch this video with something in mind, that will we really wake up from this enslavement as the blacks, or rather as Africans, and move freely and work as a team towards the realization of Africa that we need. So let us watch this and make a reaction in the end.
I found myself going to the legacy of slavery, the legacy of colonization. And when I started digging even further and asking myself the obvious questions that are right in our fingertips, that are somehow not being discussed. How on earth do you expect individual African countries to fight this game on the world stage as little-bitty countries that we are? And why are we these little-bitty countries that we are? With my own personal understanding of my history, I do know, coming from Southern Africa, I am from some very powerful kingdoms. That was before Rhodesia. That was before South Africa. We were powerful kingdoms. That's who they knew us to be. When did we become these little-bitty countries? Thanks to the Berlin Conference. You see, the colonizers had been coming to Africa for over 700 years. Starting with 300 years of the Portuguese, followed by 400 years of the other colonizers. They were coming into Africa in a very haphazard way. We heard about this amazing continent with everything that we need, and everybody is packing their bags and running to Africa. So you see Mr. Frenchman over here, he stole from the Africans. Then here comes Mr. British over here. He now starts stealing from the Frenchmen what the French have stolen from the Africans. And before you know it, here is Belgium, now stealing from the British what they have stolen from the French have stolen. Before you know it, they're fighting each other. Fighting over how to distribute the loot from the Africans. So pretty soon they were getting ready to have a European war. on the African soil. The then Chancellor of Germany, Bismarck, realizing they're getting ready to have a European war on the African soil, called his sidekick, who by then was having havoc in the Congo, King Leopold. He said, let's bring all colonizers together. Let's meet in Berlin, Germany. Let's organize ourselves so we can effectively loot from these monkeys. So it was in 1884, from November to 1885 in February, they met in Berlin, the colonizers, not to see to it that Africa prospered. They met in Berlin to organize themselves so they could effectively loot from the Africans. They also met for another reason. They also met to organize themselves so they can make sure that Africa and her children are forever defeated and dominated. I repeat, 135 years ago, they met to organize themselves to see to it that Africa and her children on the continent and abroad are forever defeated and dominated. 135 years later, 2019, nothing has changed. Berlin Conference gave us countries like Gambia, Djibouti, Burundi, Central African Republic, Togo, Lesotho, Eswatini. The list goes on. As a matter of fact, all African countries. And they did one more thing. They took all these little bitty countries. They had this great big old map of Africa across from them, strategizing. The more powerful the kingdoms were, the more they got along together, the more countries that came out of there, and the more languages that came out of there. Picture yourself driving from Zambia. You're speaking English. And pretty soon you are in Angola. You're speaking Portuguese. And pretty soon you are in DRC. You're speaking French. Pretty soon you are in Equatorial Guinea. You're speaking Spanish. Pretty soon you are in Cameroon. You're back English. Northern Cameroon, French. Pretty soon you are in Nigeria. English. Who does that? This was all by design to cause maximum destruction of a people. Give it a generation, the people who used to be one will not even know that they were related. History tells us that a husband and wife went to bed in Zambia. When they woke up, the wife was in Zambia and the husband was in Malawi. That's how arbitrary the divisions were. The divisions were done in Berlin, while the Africans were on the continent minding their own business. All to see to it that Africa and her children are forever defeated and dominated. These little bitty countries were given the same sovereignty. Hear me out now. These little bitty countries, Central Africa Republic, has the same sovereignty as China. Gabon, 1.5 million people, has the same sovereignty as China, as India, as the European Union. Even the Europeans realize, as France, as Britain, as Germany, they are not powerful enough. So they came together and became the European Union. But the little bitty African countries, you stay. And I often say, if this world was to be a boxing game, even in boxing, the boxers understand that heavyweights belong to the heavyweights, the middleweights with the middleweights, the lightweights with the lightweights, and the wannabes like my sons here, they need to belong over there, out there, yonder. You don't take a wannabe boxer and throw them in with a heavyweight boxer. It's like taking my poor husband and throwing him in with Muhammad Ali. You don't do that. It's just not done. But that's exactly what they're doing to Africa. How do you take Gabon with 1.5 million people, my fellow brothers and sisters, and throw Gabon, 1.5 million, into the same boxing ring with China, 1.3 billion? And you call that parity? And when Gabon gets his rear end kicked, and the world is like, what's wrong with you, Gabon? How did you allow China to beat you up? And nobody even goes past that. Gets even better. So it wasn't bad enough that we chopped up Africa into the tiny little countries that can never make it on their own. And should they even try to make it like Africans always do, we are easy to destabilize. We're small economies. It doesn't take much to knock us down. Well, when they were quote unquote, and I'm going to do this in quotation mark, leaving Africa between 1958 and 1961, France did something absolutely horrible. France made the Francophone African countries, and I don't even want to use that terminology, but I only use it for the purposes of conversation. The 14 countries which were formally, but still colonized by the French, they were forced to sign a document that they called the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization. You heard me. The Pact for this continuation of colonization. If you want your independence, you must sign this. Guinea, Secretary said absolutely not. Mali said absolutely not. France, pack your bags and go on back home. France could not believe it. Could not understand that an African country, these monkeys, do not want to be affiliated to France. They said, we will show you. So history tells us France went into those two countries, took everything that they thought they had brought to those two countries, including the last teaspoon and chair, proceeded to pour concrete into the sewage pipes, completely devastating the two economies. The then newly appointed president of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah, in his efforts to rescue these two economies, created the first ever union of any African states, Ghana, Guinea, and Mali. But what that did was it made the other African countries realize that if they go against France, this was the fate that was waiting them. So what do? Wait the paper. And they signed. What did the pact say? One. The pact said, you monkeys, you don't know how to manage your money. So you shall deposit 85% of your bank reserves with the French Central Bank under the control of the French Minister of Finance. And that France is going to take your deposits from the individual countries, pull them together, invest them in the French stock market under the French name. And you, monkeys, you may or may not know the returns. Latest figures are showing this is still going on since 1958. France today is collecting out of Africa over $500 billion before investing. And when they finish investing this money, for every 14 billion out of Africa, they're recognizing over 300 billion. Now do the math. So when it's actually said and done, France is taking out of Africa trillions of dollars every year, and we, the poor Africans, are gladly giving it to France. And the same France has the audacity to look at us and call us poor people. 1958. They went further with the pact. You say, we will also print your own money. We will print your money for you. They instituted what they were calling the CFA, special currency for the African countries, and that only France can print that money for you. They went on to say all the contracts, large contracts, public and private, French companies have the first right of refusal. All your minerals discovered, yet to be discovered, France has the first right of refusal. Now, my brothers and sisters, if one of you was to wake up one morning and you're president of one of those countries, and your chief of staff walks in first day and starts reading you out the do's and don'ts as stipulated by the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization, what power do you have? None. And the same countries that are stealing from Africa They have the audacity to look at Africa and say, Africans, what's wrong with you? Why can't you all take care of yourselves? Well, let's start by living on $500 billion on the continent. But what they do instead, they want to throw you with a smoke screen. Your African leaders are corrupt. Well, you know, I gave you that. I mean, not all African leaders are corrupt. Africa is a family. No family is complete without crazy Aunt Sally and crazy Uncle Tom. Nobody is perfect. Okay, fine, so I'll give you that. Their own figures are saying 50 billion is getting out of Africa from corruption. Fine, I give you that. But you do not want me to engage in a conversation that's solely limited to the $50 billion out of Africa through corruption. First, you don't tell me where it's going. You simply tell me it's getting out of Africa. But secondly, there's a bigger thief. You got two thieves, one with a briefcase with 50 billion and the other thief with a briefcase with 500 billion. I am a smart woman. You want me to ignore the one with 500 billion and put all my energies on a suitcase with 50? And by the time the one with 500 billion is done investing, we are talking trillions. Now, do you see how quickly the funds out of Africa from corruption become the larger chunk under the table? And they want you to stay under the table. So you never have to talk about what is on the table. We must wake up, Africans. We must think about our situations. How did we get here? Are we willing to let France continue to loot from us for how long? Are we willing to continue, the colonizers, to continue to colonize us? Because the truth of the matter is, all of them have never left Africa. They are still very active in Africa. But they throw you stupid little issues. And because of our colonized minds, because of our minds suffering from slavery, we just follow. We refuse to think. And I'm going to take it home a little bit here. How many times some of you continental Africans? I was talking about a guy. Oh yeah, are there a lot of, this one happened to be Zimbabweans. Are there a lot of Zimbabweans in town? Oh no, I don't mix with Zimbabweans. Can I get an amen? Amen. How many times have you gone to Africa, you as a continental African, you sit in a restaurant to order something, and our Caucasian brothers and sisters happen to walk in. You see how quickly our own brothers and sisters abandon us to run to wait on our Caucasian brothers and sisters. So yes, we have issues with France. Yes, we have issues with the former colonizers. But also, yes, we have issues of the mind. And here is where the real battle must be fought. And until we wake up and have a serious conversation with the image in the mirror, nothing, zero, zouch is going to change in Africa, and nothing is going to change our circumstances. So we must wake up and be very realistic about who we are and have a serious conversation with the image in the mirror. And ask yourself some very hard questions. Am I colonized? Am I suffering from the legacy of slavery? And if so, how do I remove the shackles of the mind? And that's for you to deal with on an individual basis. Nobody can fight that battle for you. No amount of education can assist you with that. The question is, are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? 1963, our Pan-African leaders came together to undo the boundaries imposed upon us by the Berlin Conference. Sadly, when they went to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, they were divided. We had the Casablanca group, who were the Pan-Africanists and said, Africa for the Africans, African Union now. That was Ghana, Guinea, Mali, Egypt, Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. The rest of the 25 other countries, they were the nationalists. They said, let's go slow. So they won. We often say in 1963, when the Casablanca group lost, Africa lost. 55 years later, we are still going slow. But all is not lost, my brothers and sisters. Last year, March in Kigali, finally, the African heads of states come together and say, enough is enough. This insanity cannot and must not continue. So they signed and agreed on what we are now calling the African Continental Free Trade Area. 52 African countries, 52 African heads of states signed on this. And after the leaders agreed on that, they then have to go back to their countries and put this decision through their parliament. We call that ratification. Out of the 52, they only needed 22 countries to ratify. But I have to tell you, the world never thought it was going to happen. There were some, they told me personally, Ambassador, this CFTA, it's going to be a piece of paper in a drawer. Ratifications, they take years, this is never going to happen. Well, there's a will, there's a way. March 2018, the heads of states agreed on the decision of the African Continental Free Trade Area. March 2019, exactly 12 months later, the 22nd ratification was deposited to the African Union. Hallelujah! May 30th, this month, implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area begins. All right. Also last year was an amazing year. And we must give credit where credit is due. The heads of states came together again, 2018. For the African Continental Free Trade Area to succeed, the children of Africa must be free to move and live and work where they choose on the continent. They signed what they call the Protocols for the Free Movement of People. Yeah. And even as we are going through the process of ratifications, many countries, over 40 countries in Africa now, the heads of states are loosening their... So as I stand here, I want all of you to know that what you have been hearing about Africa, take off those lenses that are jaundiced. Take off those lenses that are old. Let's look for the lenses that makes you look at your Africa with 2020 vision. It is a new day in Africa. Yeah. I'm not mincing my words. The reality is, the rest of the world could disappear. If we can just be left with the United States of America and Africa, we're going to be all right. Because everything the United States needs can be found in Africa, and everything Africa needs can be found in the United States. So I am a woman on a mission. United States, whether the United States likes it or not, United States shall be the best friend Africa has. Whether we like it or not, Africa and the United States are married. This is a relationship that must thrive. It's a relationship that will have not only many children, but many, many beautiful children. And for that to happen, we must understand each other. The misunderstandings of yesteryear must be gone. We need to realize that our Caucasian brothers and sisters, they automatically come to the negotiating table on a high horse, feeling superior. That has got to change. And we too, as black people, we come to the negotiating table feeling inferior, automatically beaten down. That too has got to change. We are running parallel to each other. If we are going to be married, there is no conversation running parallel. My Caucasian brothers and sisters, please get off your high horse, come down. And we need to realize we're just as good as anybody else. Let's rise up. And somewhere in the middle is the way we meet. And it is in the middle that we are going to have serious, meaningful conversation that's going to make this marriage be what this marriage is supposed to be. I'm on a mission. And I have no doubt in my mind that together, looking at our Africa with clear vision, understanding the purpose, realizing that we have vacated a very important place that belongs to Africa, and agreeing that we must take Africa to that place and let Africa occupy her place. It is then, and only then, can we demand our respect as black people. No one is going to give us our respect. God, take it. And allow me to give it to you men. Because you, as black men, you have let us down as your wives. You have let us down as your sons and daughters. What have you done to fix this? Nothing. What have you black men done to fix this? Nothing. Well, we're putting you in check as black women. You fix this or we're taking over. Let me conclude by sharing with you a story about one woman called Nanaya Asantua. She was the gatekeeper of the Ashanti gold stool. The British governor in the 1900s, after they had beaten up the kingdom, arresting and putting all the kings and chiefs in exile in Mauritius. The Ashanti king was already locked up in Mauritius. They were now going after this too. Because you see, you got to understand the spirit of the Ashanti rests in that stool. So when you take that golden stool, you are taking the spirit of the Ashantis. They were going to take the stool to England. So the Ashanti men, they caved in. They went to the governor and said, well, if we give you the stool, can you bring back the king? So that was getting ready to happen. They were getting ready to sell the soul of the Ashanti people. But Nanaya Asandua would not have it. She told the men, is it that the strength of the Ashanti men is normal? Is it that we, the Ashanti women, are standing here defenseless? She says, the stool is not going anywhere. And if you men do not fight to defend this stool, me and my fellow women shall take up arms, and we will fight till the last one of us is gone.
Now, this is so interesting that we know the predicaments that awaits us, but still we haven't educated our people well enough to know how we are controlled, or how the minds of the black man and an African has been enslaved. It has been enslaved in a manner that he can't stand for himself. He can't even think of uniting as one so that they face the common enemy. The common enemy is milking Africa, and they are trying to take every sort of resource that can build Africa, and this is helping them. They come as friends. Right now, they don't even have to pretend that they are taking your resources. They come with the hard eyes and loot the resources. Look at what they've done to Congo. They can never allow peace to take place in Congo. Look at Libya. When Muammar Gaddafi wanted to change the whole of Africa with the urge to build an African front with one currency that can fight for itself, it was the white man who brought him down and ensured that he was killed openly and in a broad daylight. Until now, Libya has never had a leader of this caliber, and Libya is really regretting the moves. So it means that we as Africans, we are enemies of ourselves. We are amongst us. They are cronies of the whites, and we praise them as leaders. We elect them into offices, and if you hear conversations across Africa, you'll hear people saying that this our president was installed by America, our presidency is determined by the Britain, our presidency was brought by the Frenchman. Are we really caring for our continent? Can we stand for ourselves? Can we build a continent where we have a say about it, and we unite towards realizing one African front and a society that can fight the enemy and thrash him to his or her knees? Do we really want to change African continent? That is the question that I always ask while bringing these videos, because we are here to educate the people. We are here for the revolution of the black man. We want the black man to see or to know what he should stand for. That is when we go together, or this world will move together in harmony, because inferiority complex, or the feeling of inferiority that has been bestowed to us by the white man should start changing, or it should be transformed, and we know our strength and build that strength to make Africa a great again. I know Africa is going to rise, but it will only rise if we get the right education, we get the right teachings, and we move together in the right direction. That is the message that Arikana Chihombori is bringing forth, because she wants us to fight or to stand strong, because the enemy is up and alive and wants to thrash us. So tell me what you feel about it in the comment section. You can make that comment and elaborate on how, or the plan that the black man has that will make him rise against the white man. By doing that, I think that it will even guide our conversation in this channel, and we will bring more videos that are catching. Also, do not forget to subscribe if you're watching us for the first time. Thank you, and may God bless you.